Hi, and welcome to Integrated Customer Experience, Finding Your Sweet Spot, a Take 30 with One-to-One Media webcast sponsored by Teletech. I'm Tom Hoffman at One-to-One Media, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion, where we'll be examining best practices for developing a successful integrated customer experience strategy, along with identifying the right metrics for measuring the results and business impact of these efforts. Our featured speaker today is Michael Colburn, Vice President of Marketing, Sales, and Communications at Stowe Mountain Resort. A 2011 One-to-One Media Customer Champion, Michael is responsible not only for sales, marketing, and communication strategies at the Four Seasons Resort in Vermont, he's also responsible for overseeing all aspects of the customer experience. This includes any feedback that customers may share with the company, as well as area businesses about their experiences with the resort, which we'll explore in more depth later on in the discussion. Mike is also responsible for brand management for all of Stowe's various entities, which includes a performing arts center, 11 restaurants, and the Stowe Mountain Club. This sounds like a full-time job in itself. Mike, it's a privilege to have you with us today.
All right, it's nice to be here.
Before we jump into the discussion with Mike, I'd like to offer our attendees a few pointers on using the On24 tool. First, please turn off your pop-up blockers to enable a survey that will be provided during the webcast. We'd encourage everyone to participate. To download a copy of today's slides, please click on the green resource widget. If you have a question for one of our presenters, please click on the red Q&A widget and then type in your question and then hit submit. If you should encounter any technical issues during the webcast, please click on the help button that's located near the center of the toolbar. And this will be followed by a Q&A with our audience and a post-event survey. Also, feel free to tweet about today's webcast using the hashtag that's shown here. Now for a bit more background on the key points that we'll be covering in today's discussion. Today, Mike and I will explore the top challenges in building an integrated customer experience strategy, along with the steps that can be taken to address these issues. We'll also examine what an integrated customer experience strategy looks like for a four-season resort, such as Stowe Mountain Resort. Finally, we'll also identify effective metrics for measuring the business impact of an integrated customer experience strategy. And this will be followed by a Q&A with our attendees. So when we talk about customer experience these days, it's a rather all-inclusive term. That's because customers interact with companies through so many different channels, whether it's face-to-face, online, through social, mobile, email, chat, and also through customer support channels such as an IVR or self-service channels. Because of this, and because customers expect to receive consistent experiences across all the different channels they use, it's important for marketing leaders and other decision makers to develop a well-devised, integrated customer experience strategy. However, even though 9 out of 10 executives say there's at least some organizational commitment to delivering an integrated customer experience, according to a recent study from eConsultancy, only 1/5 of respondents say that they have actually a well-developed strategy. Now, there are multiple components that can contribute to these shortcomings, including a lack of executive commitment to these efforts, along with a failure, among some organizations at least, to develop a well-coordinated plan across all the channels that customers use. But certainly, a few of the primary culprits are data silos, technological deficiencies, and process limitations. Many companies have standalone channel operations, whether it's live customer-facing staff, web, chat, email, mobile, and social. And in many cases, the systems used to support them are operated and governed independently, and they're not well integrated with one another. As a result, this prevents marketers and other decision makers from gaining a real 360-degree view of each customer and the scope of their experiences with a company, which makes it extremely difficult to act on opportunities for improving the customer experience or even identifying what the integrated customer experience should look like. So at this point, I'd like to bring Mike Colburn into the discussion and start by asking Mike if he can start by sharing with us a little bit about Stowe Mountain Resort. Mike?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. Well, Stowe Mountain Resort, we're located in mid-northern Vermont, and it is an iconic New England four-season resort. It is, physically it's just beautiful. Skiing started in Stowe back in the 1900s, early 1900s actually, 1918. Today, we're in the mid stages of a $700 million redevelopment project. Actually, that's spending to date. In the past 6 years alone, we've built new lifts, snowmaking base facilities, a hotel, Stowe Mountain Lodge, a performing arts center, single home lots, mountain cabins, fractional front four units, a new golf course, and our summer attractions. And we're almost ready to announce our next phase of development starting next April. We decided when with the development project that we were going to focus on a 4- and 5-star facility and experience because we felt that wasn't being served anywhere in the East. In addition, 2 years ago, we purchased an RFID-based lift access technology, which literally meant that all of our season passes and tickets, as everybody knows them, paper tickets and what have you, went away, replaced by an RFID-based Evolution Stowe card. We have a lot of future development coming up, and probably as the umbrella on everything that we're doing is our absolute focus on customer experience.
Great. Thanks for that background, Mike. So, Mike, can you also tell us about Stowe's integrated customer experience strategy and what its current status is?
Sure. It started the resort-wide program that we call Stowe Exceptional Service is 8 or 9 different components, from flipping the switch and arriving to work with an attitude ready to serve, the 10 to 5 foot rule, the Stowe hello. There are several components to this. This is not a program that we talk to our guests about. It's an internal employee-driven program that has every single employee, the full-time, the seasonal, the part-time, everybody from snowmakers to the people who run lifts, to our groomers, to our hotel staff, our guest service staff, all food and beverage. Every department literally at the mountain is involved with Stowe Exceptional Service, and it's reminded and tested on a daily basis. About 2 years ago, we actually hired a Stowe Exceptional Service manager. That her only job is training our staff on a daily basis on the components of Stowe Exceptional Service.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So, Mike, given that Stowe is a four-season resort, how is an integrated customer experience strategy approached differently?
Well, it starts, first of all, with knowing who your guest is, and I want to back up just a minute. We have an electronic survey with our guests that we send them a survey 2 days after they leave the resort, and it's about a 60-question survey, and they give us feedback, and that feedback is then analyzed on a lifetime basis, and that's kind of our metric for measuring how effective we are as managers, and that survey measures everything from pre-arrival, where did you get your information about the resort, arrival from the parking lots to the top of the mountain, and every aspect of their experience in between, to how easy was it to exit the resort and ultimately return home. So, integrating that into especially a four-season resort in that, there's probably 200 of us that work a year round. And probably today at the resort on December the 4th, we have probably 800 to 1,000 employees. On December 26th, we're going to have close to 3,000 employees. So it's not an easy task just because of the seasonality of our business.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So, Mike, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you've encountered both in rolling out the strategy as well as keeping it fresh?
Well, the challenge, that we will have today, yesterday, tomorrow is communication. It makes it a little bit easier when everybody is on the same page with our Stowe Exceptional Service components. But we have the first busy holiday season coming up at the end of the month, and we have over 1,000 employees that are not working yet. So, employing them, getting them here, training them on the intricacies of what they do. It could be anything from our cafes to running lifts, and then integrating to 30% of them. We have about a 70% return rate. 30% of them don't know anything about the company and our culture. So, communication, because from a marketing standpoint, we are out there making a promise to the guest pre-arrival, and delivering that promise is job one. And communication, there are so many ways to get the information that you need, and just either reminding the employee, making sure that your message is consistent with the promises that you've made, and it's a never-ending race. And then you compound that with the vast differences between a summer guest, a spring, summer, and fall guest versus a winter guest. And simply put as I can, about nationally, 2% of the population skis or rides in the wintertime. In the Northeast, it's probably 9 to 15%. You have to have a certain mindset to want to be on top of a mountain in the wintertime, whereas in the summer, we have everything from sightseers to antiquers to shoppers to people that just want to enjoy the mountain or go hiking or mountain biking and golf. And it's worlds apart. Our winter guest can be a summer guest. A summer guest is not necessarily a winter guest. So that's a challenge. And taking those service standards and affecting them 365 days a year, that's what we work on every single day.
Yeah, and thanks for that. Yeah, that's something that we can get into a little bit deeper as we go along in this discussion. One of the things that Ed brought up earlier was the data silos that exist and how this prevents companies and decision makers from gaining a 360-degree view of customers. And I'm wondering if you could share with us some of the steps that you've taken to integrate customer and other data from various channels to help provide you and your team with a more complete view of the customer experience.
Sure. Well, it starts back with our electronic surveys, and we ask any number of questions, including some questions about the type of person, the individual that is visiting the resort, and what's important to them. Is it the price of a lift ticket? Is it all the services we provide? Is it all of the above? So we sort of have 6 different segments of guests. In addition, the information that we get back from the guests in a lifetime basis, if a guest, let's say on their overall satisfaction, scores us dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, that survey ends up in 3 of our inboxes that we are able to reach back to that guest or the appropriate manager, and our mandate is 48 hours, and it's by phone preferably that we reach back out to them. So that information, and we also have what's called a loyalty index, and because the first 3 questions we ask a guest is your overall satisfaction, your intent to return, and advocacy, which is our number one marketing vehicle, is will you tell someone about the resort? And so we've chosen to try to attain a top box score of 5 on very satisfied in all 3 of those categories. And if our goal is 45% of all of our guests give us that top box score. And so that information is shared not only with the director group at the resort, but all of the frontline managers, and that information is not, and those dashboards, those reporting dashboards, are something that everybody has access to in management, and different managers use them different ways. Everything from snow grooming to snow making to parking to even how effective our websites are.
That's interesting. So I would venture to guess that you tend to respond to customers by phone for more of a personal touch.
Well, we are fortunate, and again, I say this just historically because we've been doing this now pre-build through now that we've built all of these great facilities, is that believe it or not, out of 1,200 surveys, I mean, it is in the 50 to 60 that we get these real-time alerts. And so what we look for is trending. We look for trending in all of our surveys, but, that human touch of being able to call someone on the phone, we have found that we've turned guests that have been just regular guests, but once we focus on their issue, whatever it may be, they become even a more loyal guest, in the future. So it's not like there's a team of people constantly calling dissatisfied guests because we get our raw data or our raw scores, but we also, we do pay attention to anybody that gives us dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. Fortunately, it's just not a big number.
Well, that's good. So, Mike, can you also share with us how Stowe is using customer feedback to help refine processes that are used to support the customer experience?
Absolutely. Earlier I referred to, the RFID ticketing system, and a great example of how 2014 has been shaped by this feedback. When we turned our whole ticketing and seasons pass process and technology, literally started with a brand new technology, it wasn't the easiest year. So year 2, and our goal is to get lift access. Historically, you wait in a lift ticket line, at a ticket window, you get your ticket, and you go skiing. We introduced a new product last year called Bypass, and it's not a commercial for Bypass. It's a commercial for how we took the guest feedback from year 1 of the technology. We found this product, which simply put is you get an Evolution Stowe card, which is our piece of media. You can attach at no cost. You can attach resort charge to use it as a form of payment anywhere around the resort. But with our Bypass program, you can actually sign up for it. Again, costs nothing, but you put it in your pocket, and when you go to a lift in the morning, the gate will open, and that's when you'll be charged that ticket price for that day, which also happens to be the lowest ticket rate available. You can walk to the window and pay. Today, I think it's $64 for a lift ticket or for a one-day access. Your Bypass rate is $54. This weekend, when we open another huge section of the resort with our gondola, the lift ticket access at the window will be $98. It'll still be $54 with your Bypass for doing nothing other than going through that gate in the morning. And last year, year 1, we had over 6,000 people sign up and use that program, and we're projecting somewhere between 10 and 12,000 in 2014, and that's all a result of what we were hearing and the analysis of our customer feedback from 2012 and 2013.
That sounds like a great deal.
And it couldn't be easier. It is a seamless experience. You do nothing to go skiing or riding other than get out of your car, leave your hotel room, and go to the lift, and you're assured to get the very best price available on any of those days, including the holidays.
I would imagine you've gotten some very good reception to that, given that it's not difficult for customers to have to go through. It's a relatively painless experience.
We've had hiccups in regard to the technology with again in our planning meetings in the summertime, people will compare to Apple products or any kind of technology products that people use on a day in, day out basis that seem to work. We always have to keep in mind, especially from our IT folks, is that people are coming here on average once or twice a season. A season lift access person is averaging about 20 days, so it's not part of their everyday life. So that summer when they might not be here, you have to re-communicate with them all the different things that are available this year. So it's again, I mentioned earlier technology. I mean communication. We're communicating on a daily basis with our guests.
Right. So, Mike, can you also share with us some of the metrics that you use to measure the business impact of the integrated customer experience?
Well, we opened 2 weeks ago, and skiing's top to bottom, and we have a lot of terrain open. Every guest at the resort today drove by or flew by a resort, a winter resort closer to their home, that is less expensive. And so, you know, if you can see our facilities, and they are state of the art. They're gorgeous. They're all within a few years old, and you know, they're very, very high quality. And what comes along with that is the expectation of that customer service. So whether it's the metric of how good is business, but it's the metric, it truly is that loyalty index, and how are we doing in some of our key metrics of empowering our employees, problem solving. Does the guest or does the employee have the answer, or can they get the answer? And that's when we go back to you know, one of the components of Stowe exceptional service is we're the experts. See beyond your department. See the resort as a whole. Get out and know your way around. This is not that complicated that we can effectively communicate this, you know, to a few thousand employees. But it's the promise that we make.
Okay, great. So, Mike, can you also share with us some of the key lessons that you've learned along the way? And also, what have you found is the sweet spot for Stowe?
Well, you know, I mentioned it several times, you know, the communication is and always will be king. Probably one of the I think more exciting aspects of being in marketing and communications in 2013 has been the ability to listen. On one channel, you have your surveys that people willfully give us their feedback, including verbatim questions. And you know, we will have 1,200 surveys. Our participation rate is actually amazingly good. But we also have our ears on, you know, our social channels. You know, the Instagram, the Twitter feedback, Pinterest. You know, what are people saying about you? How are they responding? And really, in the last probably 5 years, we've become much better listeners because the customer just has a louder voice than ever. And in live time, you know, we had a situation last year where we had a fire alarm in our hotel. It happened to be on 11 o'clock on a Saturday evening. I was there. The first thing I did was go to Twitter, and people were live tweeting how well we handled that situation. It turned out I think we did okay because it was all, you know, people felt they were being communicated to. So, you know, we're better listeners. You know, the sweet spot is always a challenge because it's weather dependent. We've had some great weather, snowmaking weather, and weather at the resort the last few weeks, but it's a weather-dependent business. When it snows and the sun comes out on a weekend, there's your sweet spot. However, on that day, we'll close parking lots. We will reach capacity. We'll park 2,200 cars. And so the exit between 3 and 5 o'clock, that's probably not a sweet spot because, you know, if you're not on your way down the road by 3, you're going to be stuck in traffic as the entrance and the exit of the resort is one lane in and one lane out, which, if I can just mention another strategy, it's with the handcuffs of entry and exit, we are not chasing volume. We're not trying to be the biggest ski area in New England. What we're trying to do is have a comfortable sized audience, and that's somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 folks a day, you know, on the busy time periods, and manage that effectively because we know they're going to be talking about us. So, you know, the sweet spot is never a given. Right,
but you know, based on what you just shared, it also sounds like you've taken careful steps to make sure that the customer experience is being taken into account. It's not about volume. It's about making sure that you're delivering the optimal customer experience.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you look at probably the team of 5 of us that have our ears on the communication, and then compound that with, in the case of our surveys and what have you, that is resort wide. I would say that the thing that we're getting better at, or that we're always trying to be the best at, is listening and responding in any of the communication that we're getting back.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for everything you've shared with us so far about Stowe's integrated customer experience journey. So let's jump into the audience Q&A. But before we do, just a few reminders. We'd like to encourage everyone to participate in the survey that's posted during the Q&A period. So please take a moment to participate. Again, to do so, you'll need to turn off your pop-up blockers to enable the survey. So let's begin the Q&A. To ask a question, click on the red Q&A icon, type in your question, and then hit send. And if we don't get to your question today, we'll send you an email response as soon as we're able to. So, Mike, this first question is related to the surveys. I know you talked about the number of people that you send the surveys out to, but can you share with us what your return rate is?
We've averaged a low of 22 and a high of 31% return rate, and that's completing all 60 questions from start to finish. There are some incentives. We have weekly prizes. We have season-long prizes. But what I find amazing is that, when you look at that population that skis or rides, it's a passionate sport, and people want to tell you how you're doing or how you could do it better. And we hear that, on a kind of a third form is there isn't a manager, at least that I'm responsible for, that on the weekends is not in the base lodges supporting guest services. So, that's just another way that we try to keep our ear to the rails and listen to what's going on. We get a lot of surveys back, and again, we send the invites out on a Tuesday, and today, tomorrow, the next day, we'll start to get them back, and that's how we start our season.
Okay. Can you also share with us how the survey has helped you and your team to better know your customers in order to adapt to their changing needs?
Sure. I mean, you have standard demographics of where do they live, what's their email address, what is income, kind of normal demographics of a database. We ask 12 questions where we know the customer type that they are, and from a lowest denominator, and I don't mean that in other than average spend, because we do have that knowledge of our guests, but the somebody who is a shopper, they get in that category because they answer those 12 questions in such a way that they end up in that category. And a shopper is, the number one concern is price, and the type of customer that a shopper is not loyal to any ski area. They will go where the deal of the week is, and a lot of times probably our lowest SAT scores are going to be in that category because of the services and amenities that we provide. It's still a business, and we have to operate with the weather and with everything else that mitigates how business is. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, and you get a 4-star skier that wants the best of everything, the best chefs, the best ski instruction, the best lifts. I mean, we have practically all new lifts. We just put in $8 million of snowmaking. These are folks that are going to buy the season access, are going to go into all of our restaurants. They're going to go to the spa. They're going to go to the arts center. And they're going to enjoy everything for what we are. And then there are the categories that are in the middle that, we try to find touch points of what are pleasers and displeasers with them. It's interesting how entry, parking, and exit flow is universal, though. We're pretty focused on smooth entry and smooth exit. It's not always easy.
No, I imagine it's not. So, Mike, I'd like to thank you again for sharing your fabulous insights with us today. And I'd like to thank all of the attendees for joining us. But unfortunately, we've run out of time, so any unanswered questions will be addressed by email. This concludes Integrated Customer Experience, Finding Your Sweet Spot, a Take 30 with One-to-One Media webcast sponsored by Teletech. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for attending and have a great day.